Isaiah chapter 7, verse 1. Now, some of these names I might not pronounce correctly. Verse 1. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up toward Jerusalem to war against it, but could not prevail against it. Now for the cross references. 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 5. Then Rezin, king of Assyria, and Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, came up to Jerusalem to war, and they besieged Ahaz, but could not overcome him. And 2 Chronicles 28, verse 15. Wherefore the Lord his God delivered him into the hand of the king of Assyria, and they smote him, and carried away a great multitude of them captives, and brought them to Damascus. And he was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who smote him with a great slaughter. For Pekah the son of Remaliah slew in Judah 120,000 in one day, which were all valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. Verse 2. And it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is confederate with Ephraim, and his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind. Verse 3. Then said the Lord unto Isaiah, Go forth now to meet Ahaz, thou and Shear-jashub thy son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool, in the highway of the fuller's field. 2 Kings 18, verse 17. Some of these names I'm going to have trouble with. And the king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabzarias and Rabshakeh from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a great host against Jerusalem. And they went up and came to Jerusalem. And when they came up, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is in the highway of Fuller's field. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 13. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten, as a tale tree, and as an oak, whose substance is in them, when they cast their leaves, so the holy seed shall be the substance thereof. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 21. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. Isaiah chapter 36, verse 2. And the king of Assyria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army. And he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Verse 4. And say unto him, Take heed, and be quiet, fear not, neither be faint-hearted for the two tails of these smoking firebrands, for the fierce anger of Rezin with Syria, and the son of Remaliah. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 15. For thus saith the Lord God, the Holy One of Israel, in returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, and ye would not. Verse 5. Because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have taken evil counsel against thee, saying, verse 6, Let us go up against Judah, and vex it. Let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tabio. Verse 7. Thus saith the Lord God, It shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. Proverbs 21, verse 30. There is no wisdom, nor understanding, nor counsel against the Lord. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 10. Take counsel together, and it shall come to naught. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for God is with us. Verse 8. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people. 2 Samuel chapter 8, verse 6. Then David put garrisons in Syria of Damascus. And the Syrians became servants to David and brought gifts. And the Lord preserved David whithersoever he went. Verse 9. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If ye will not believe, surely ye shall not be established. 2 Chronicles 20:20. And they rose early in the morning and went forth into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went forth, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Judah, and hear, inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, so shall ye be established. Believe his prophets, so shall ye prosper. Verse 10. Moreover, the Lord spake again unto Ahaz, saying, unto Ahaz, saying, Ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God. Ask it either in the depth or in the height above. Judges chapter 6, verse 36. And Gideon said unto God, If thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. Matthew chapter 12, verse 38. Then certain of the scribes and of the Pharisees answered, saying, Master, we would see a sign from thee. Verse 12. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. And verse 13. And he said, Hear ye now, O house of David, is it a small thing for you to weary men? But will ye weary my God also? Verse 14. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive, and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Genesis chapter 4, verse 25. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew. Genesis chapter 16, verse 11. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. Genesis chapter 29, verse 32. And Leah conceived, and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Surely the Lord hath looked upon my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. Genesis chapter 30, verse 6. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Verse 8 of Genesis 30. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. 1 Samuel chapter 4, verse 21. And she named the child Ichabod, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 8. And he shall pass through Judah, he shall overflow and go over, he shall reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of his wings shall fill the breadth of thy land, O Emmanuel. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his and his government. Let me start over. So Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Matthew chapter 1 verse 23. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. Luke chapter 1 verse 31. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and shall call his name Jesus. Verse 34 of Luke chapter 1. Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man? Verse 15 of Isaiah chapter 7. Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. Verse 16. For before the child shall know to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land that thou abhorrest shall be forsaken of both her kings. 2 Kings chapter 15 verse 30. And Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and smote him, and slew him, and reigned in his stead, in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. Chapter 16, verse 9. And the king of Assyria hearkened unto him. For the king of Assyria went up against Damascus, and took it, and carried the people of it captive to Kir, and slew Rezin. Isaiah chapter 8, verse 4. For before the child shall have knowledge to cry, My father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away before the king of Assyria. Verse 17. The Lord shall bring upon thee, and upon thy people, and upon thy father's house, days that have not come, from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, or from the day that Ephraim departed from Judah, even the king of Assyria. 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 16. So then all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them. The people answered the king, saying, What portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tents, O Israel. Now see to thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents. 2 Chronicles chapter 28, verse 19. For the Lord brought Judah low because of Ahaz king of Israel, for he made Judah naked, and transgressed sore against the Lord. Verse 18. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall hiss for the fly that is in the uttermost part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 26. And he will lift up an ensign to the nations from far, and will hiss unto them from the end of the earth, and behold, they shall come with speed swiftly. Verse 19. And they shall come, and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys, and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns, and upon all bushes. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 19. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves of the earth, for the fear of the Lord, and for the glory of his majesty, when he ariseth to shake terribly the earth. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain, and from every hill, and out of the holes of the rocks. Verse 20. In that same day shall the Lord shave with a razor that is hired, namely, by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, the head, and the hair of the feet, and it shall also consume the beard. 2 Kings chapter 16, verse 7. So Ahaz sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am thy servant and thy son. Come up and save me out of the hand of the king of Syria, and out of the hand of the king of Israel, which rise up against me. And Ahaz took the silver and gold, and Ahaz took the king, and Ahaz took the silver and gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent it for present to the king of Assyria. Second Chronicles 2018, verse 20 through 21. And Tilgath-Pilneser, king of Assyria, came unto him and distressed him, but strengthened him not. For Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of the Lord, and out of the house of the king, and of the princes, and gave it unto the king of Assyria, but he helped him not. Isaiah chapter 10, verse 5. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. Verse 15 of Isaiah chapter 10. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift up itself, as if it were no wood. Ezekiel chapter 5, verse 1. And thou, son of man, take thee a sharp knife, take thee a barber's razor, and cause it to pass upon thine head and upon thy beard, and take thee balances to weigh, and divide the hair. Verse 21. And it shall come to pass in that day that a man shall nourish a young cow and 2 sheep. Verse 22. And it shall come to pass, for the abundance of milk that they shall give, he shall eat butter. For butter and honey shall every one eat that is left in the land. Yeah, I think I read that correctly, but let me just read 22 of chapter 7 one more time. And it shall come to pass, for the abundance of milk that they shall give, he shall eat butter. For butter and honey shall every one eat that is left in the land. (23) And it shall come to pass in that day that every place shall be, where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 silverlings, it shall even be for briars and thorns. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 6. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain no rain upon it. Verse 24 of Isaiah chapter 7. With arrows and with bows shall men come thither, because all the land shall become briars and thorns. Isaiah chapter 7, verse 25, the last verse. And on all hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come thither the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen, and for the treading of lesser cattle.